The piercing sound of the phone broke the stillness of the night. I put down my needlework and got up to answer it. "Hello, who's this?" I asked, puzzled. "Aunt, it's me," came the voice of a young man from the other end. The moment I heard the voice, I knew it was my brother's son. "What's the matter?" I asked calmly, though I already had a good idea why he was calling. "Aunt, ever since Grandma passed away, you've stopped giving us the 30,000 yuan for her support. Who's going to help me with my mortgage?" His tone was filled with accusation and frustration. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the anger rising inside me. "That money was for Grandma's support, not for paying your mortgage. Grandma's gone now, and I have no obligation to continue giving you money," I replied firmly. "But Aunt, we're in a difficult situation right now. Dad's business isn't doing well," he said, hurriedly. I interrupted him. "Enough. I don't want to hear any more excuses. From now on, I have no ties with your family." With that, I hung up and immediately blocked his number. Sitting back on the sofa, I felt a flood of emotions, reflecting on everything that had happened over the years. Outside, the night deepened, and one by one, the city lights flickered on, as if telling the stories of countless families. I wondered, how did my story turn out to be so complicated and full of twists? My name is Yang Xiulan. I am 59 years old. In my family, I had one older sister and one younger brother. Our parents always favored my brother, heavily biased toward him. Growing up, every New Year, my sister and I would watch helplessly as our mother bought new clothes for our brother while we were stuck with hand-me-downs. I once asked my mother, full of grievance, "Mom, why does brother get new clothes every year while we have to wear old ones?" Mother frowned and said, "Girls shouldn't be so demanding. Boys are different." Life in the village wasn't prosperous back then, and everyone lived frugally. But even so, Mother always found a way to buy my brother new clothes. I remember one winter, it was particularly cold. My sister and I wore patched-up cotton coats, while my brother flaunted his brand-new down jacket around the village. I could only lower my head in silent frustration. When it came to education, my parents spared no expense to send my brother to school, while they made my sister and me drop out to help with farm work. Every morning, I would watch my brother, backpack slung over his shoulders, cheerfully walking to school while I had to head to the fields. Sometimes, I'd secretly flip through his textbooks, imagining myself sitting in a classroom. But whenever my parents caught me, they would scold me. Father always said, "What's the point of girls studying so much? Aren't you just going to get married anyway?" I would argue back, "Can't I have my own dreams and ambitions?" But each time I resisted, I was met with more reprimands and punishment. Over time, I stopped speaking up, but the fire of defiance inside me never went out. Life seemed to favor my lazy, uneducated brother. Not only did he finish high school, but he also found a decent job in the city. Meanwhile, my sister and I could only take on odd jobs in the village, barely scraping by. Watching my brother bask in his success, I felt a mixture of joy and sorrow, happy for him but sad for the fate my sister and I had been dealt. 37 years ago, when I was 22, I was forced by my parents to marry a man from the neighboring village. On my wedding day, Mother held my hand and said, "Xiulan, you need to live a good life and not bring shame to our family." At that moment, I realized that in my parents' eyes, I had never been an independent person. I was just a tool to uphold the family's reputation. But married life wasn't the happy one I had imagined. My ex-husband was a heavy drinker and often abused me. I'll never forget that stormy night when he came home drunk and beat me while I was holding my infant daughter in my arms. I huddled in a corner, trembling. Through tears, I begged him, "Please stop hitting me. Let's get a divorce." But he spat out angrily, "Divorce? Don't even think about it. You're stuck with me for life." Each time I was beaten, I thought of divorce. But my parents, worried about their reputation, firmly opposed it. Mother always said, "Just endure it, and it'll pass. Every woman lives like this." But I didn't want to endure it. I didn't want my daughter to grow up in such an environment. Just when I thought I had no way out, my sister, defying our parents, gave me the courage to leave. On the day of my divorce, standing outside the Civil Affairs office, I felt like I was being reborn. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew that as long as I had freedom, I had hope. After the divorce, I never remarried. I lived frugally, raising my daughter by myself. We rented a tiny room, and although life was hard, it was filled with hope. By day, I worked in a factory, and by night, I took on odd jobs. Every time I came home to my daughter's sweet smile, all my exhaustion melted away. I promised myself that I would give her the best education possible so she wouldn't suffer like I did. Today, my daughter is 34. 8 years ago, she got married and settled down in this city. She visits me often, bringing her family along. We have a wonderful relationship, and seeing her happy life makes all my sacrifices worthwhile. However, my relationship with my family back home has always been a burden. Every time my brother needed something, my mother would come to me and my sister for money. If we refused, he would make a scene. Once, when my brother wanted to buy a car, Mother insisted I give him my savings. "Mom, I really don't have the money," I told her. But she didn't care. My brother came to my workplace, causing a huge scene and embarrassing me in front of everyone. After that, my sister and I had to constantly navigate our parents' unreasonable demands. 7 years ago, my sister passed away from illness. I lost my closest ally and felt incredibly alone. After my sister's death, I renegotiated with my mother about her support. "Mom, I'll give you 10,000 yuan a year," I suggested. But she refused, insisting on 30,000 yuan. When I declined, she would come to my house every day to cause trouble. She even harassed my daughter once, showing up at her workplace to complain about me, saying, "This ungrateful daughter of mine brings shame to our family." My daughter, both angry and upset, called me, "Mom, what's going on?" I felt ashamed and furious at the same time. To protect my daughter and to prevent things from worsening, I reluctantly gave in to my mother's demands. To meet her financial needs, I had to continue working despite being of retirement age. After every workday, I would come home aching all over, but I knew I had to endure it for my mother's sake. However, it seemed like my mother's appetite for money was insatiable. She always had a reason to ask for more. My brother needed funds for his business, the house needed renovation, and so on. I eventually reached my limit and refused to give her any more. This made my relationship with my family even more strained. Every time I visited home, I could feel the resentment in my mother's eyes and the dissatisfaction from my brother's family. 3 months ago, my mother passed away. Even on her deathbed, she asked me to take care of my brother's family. I stood by her bedside, looking at her pale face, and felt a mixture of anger and sadness. "Mom, you favored them for so many years, and now you want me to continue looking after them?" I asked, frustration evident in my voice. But seeing her fading away, I couldn't bring myself to argue further. I chose silence instead. Mother looked at me, her eyes filled with bitterness and regret. At that moment, I knew that whatever remaining ties I had with my family had been severed. After my mother's passing, I stopped providing financial support to my brother. That's when my brother and nephew began panicking, leading to the accusatory phone call I received at the beginning. I stood up and walked to the window, gazing at the city lights outside. I knew that my life was about to change. No longer would I have to worry about those ungrateful relatives, nor would I have to strain myself to meet their endless demands. With that thought, I felt a sense of relief like never before, as if the heavy burden I had carried for years had finally been lifted. I picked up my phone and sent a message to my daughter. "Sweetheart, do you have time to come visit Mom? I'd like to chat." My daughter replied quickly, "Of course, Mom. I'll bring the kids over this weekend." Reading her warm message, my heart filled with warmth. Yes, I still have my daughter and my grandchildren. They are my real family, the most important people in my life. Thinking about seeing them this weekend, a smile unconsciously crept onto my face. I took a deep breath, and all the fatigue seemed to disappear. I decided that from tomorrow onwards, I would start planning my retirement life properly. I could enroll in some community classes and learn new skills. I wanted to make new friends and participate in activities for seniors. I also wanted to travel the world and fulfill the dreams I had in my youth. I'm going to live for myself now, free from the shadows of the past. I walked into my bedroom and looked at myself in the mirror. Although the years had left their marks on my face, my eyes still shone with determination. Looking into the mirror, I said to myself, Xiaolan, you've spent most of your life living for others. Now it's time to live for yourself. Alright, that's it for today's story. Thank you for watching. I hope what I shared today resonated with you. For those who haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so we can accompany you every day. Let's grow together, be happy together, and slowly grow old together. See you next time.